Welcome back, everybody. There is nothing more important in American politics today than the security of our election. We've said it many, many times on the show because it's true. How can you have a representative republic if the people that are elected to represent us and the ballot measures that are voted on aren't actually decided by we, the people? We've seen in the last few years that a lot of our elections aren't nearly as safe and secure as we have been led to believe. And there are a lot of ways to tackle that problem. One way to do it is at the state level, and our next guest is doing just that. Joining us now is the Attorney General for the state of Nebraska, Mike Hilgers. General, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome. Thank you.
I think most Americans, logically speaking, would say there shouldn't be foreign money, there shouldn't be foreign influence in our elections, and yet here we are. There is a specific case that you are handling in Nebraska. Tell us about it.
Well, I think almost everyone would agree this is a bipartisan issue. And until 2021, Amanda, I think we thought that the law actually prohibited foreign funding of state elections. About 2021, the FEC issued a ruling that said, actually, no, federal law doesn't prohibit it the way that you think that it does. And only about 10 or 12 states, Nebraska is one of them, California actually is another, but most have not. We actually closed the loophole in state law. I was the speaker. We passed the law that said, no federal funding, either directly or indirectly, of state ballot initiatives. Well, it turns out that we have had a deluge of funding in Nebraska over the last several election cycles. Last year was $10 million, which in Nebraska is a lot of money. Yeah. It's a lot of money anywhere, but in Nebraska, it funds a lot of ballot petitions, and all tied to a specific billionaire funder out of Switzerland, a guy by the name of Hans Berg Weise. And we think it violates Nebraska state law, so we filed a lawsuit to put a stop to it.
That is amazing. What do we know about, I mean, Hans Berg Weise has been one of the biggest funders in America. He's not an American citizen. He's just simply dumping money in. What's his motive? What are his connections? What have you learned in the early discovery in your lawsuit? Why does a man far from here want to influence our elections?
Well, I can go by what he's saying publicly. And what he's saying publicly is he's a far left progressive. Yep. He certainly wants to influence the trajectory of the United States, I think primarily through funding these statewide ballots. He has said publicly also that he's kind of proud of the fact that his name's not on any of these donations, which they're not. Right. And so you can't directly tie the money to him without some spade work, which we've done. So we think that he's trying to dramatically reshape the United States, which we think is both unlawful and immoral and wrong. Yeah. What we found is, so far, we're just filed the lawsuit, John, so we're going to ask for all sorts of discovery, and we're going to find out even more. But what we found so far is that there's a tremendous amount of money, upwards of $500 million, that have flown into the United States to influence all sorts of elections.
And they're literally flowing in, right? They come in on plates?
No, I'm sorry, flowing in. I'm sorry. No.
That'd be really something.
That'd be like a movie in the making.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Like Obama with pallets of cash.
Flowing through these intermediaries. Yeah. We've identified 6 so far. Wow. Some of them you've heard of, 1630 Fund, which is a big funder on the left, Berger Action Fund, New Venture Fund, and that these intermediaries are then providing large checks to local groups to then who then spend the money on the ballot petition. So we know it's a lot of money. We know it's from a foreign source. We know they're going through intermediaries, and we know they're really trying to turn states like Nebraska blue. And that's why we filed the lawsuit to put a stop to it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a twisted version of like a pass-through organization. How do you stop it, though? Because, I mean, you would like to think that you could leave it up to that organization, knowing what the law now is in Nebraska, to say, sorry, we can't accept this. But I don't think you can trust them.
Well, you certainly can. And evidence of that is the fact that they're doing it already. We have this law in place since 2022. They were funding ballot petitions in 2018. And ever since we passed the law, they've actually spent more money on ballot petitions in the state of Nebraska. So the law on its own has not been enough to deter them. And I think that's true in other states also. And really kind of unfortunate. So you can't rely on the good faith of the people operating these entities. Now, if we're successful in our lawsuit, getting an order saying that this is unlawful under Nebraska law, then there's pretty significant penalties, including criminal penalties. And so we are going to put a stop to this one way or another through our litigation. It's just really sad that it's come to this. You'd like to think that people would follow the rules, but you know what? They're not from the United States. No. And these are rules that have never had to apply to them, but they will apply to them, and that's what our lawsuit's meant to do.
Now, the cutouts are 501c3s and 501c4s, is that correct?
The ones we've identified are C4s so far.
So they're political thing. Are there any IRS or federal connections that your state might make referrals to as you get along in this?
Well, not just federal, but state. So we're the primary nonprofit regulator in the state of Nebraska. That is an angle and a hat we will wear as we go into our investigation. We're a little early into it, We haven't seen the communications. We haven't seen some of the inner workings of how the money has flowed between these entities, not flown. And so we'll see, but certainly that is an angle. And I will commit to Nebraskans and your viewers that if we find any of that kind of wrongdoing, we absolutely will take action, either ourselves or refer to the appropriate agency.
Amazing.
How many other states' AGs need to be paying attention to this case so that they can pounce in their own
I think
states?
every state, and by the way, I mentioned at the beginning, this is bipartisan. The amendment that got passed into law when I was Speaker in Nebraska was introduced by one of the most far-left progressives in the state legislature. So I would say blue states and red states ought to, but I would say as a starting point, Amanda, states have to look to see if they have this law on the books. I mentioned the FEC sort of created this loophole.
Right.
And maybe almost 40 of these states have not passed a law to close the loophole. So what I would first say is AGs or state legislatures, look at your statutes. Do you have a ban? If you don't have a ban, pass one post haste. And then if there is a ban in place, and Kansas and Ohio are states that have done it, right, where I'd encourage my state AG colleagues to then get involved. But the first thing is close the loophole through state action.
Can I just ask real quick, the loophole, is that a glitch or a feature?
I think it's a glitch. I think everyone assumed that federal law banned federal funding of state or foreign funding of state elections. And it wasn't until this ruling came out where people were like, oh gosh.
Oops.
And in fact, if you look at the floor debate in 2022 when we passed it in Nebraska, this is the conversation we had. Hey, before this FEC ruling, we thought it was banned. It's not banned apparently. Yeah. We need to do something about it. And we did, and I'd encourage other states to do the same thing.
From what you've learned, what sort of political initiatives is this Swedish billionaire and his emissaries in the United States weighing in on? Is it ballot initiatives? Is it redistricting? What sort of things have they weighed in on?
So far, what we've seen in Nebraska, John, are ballot initiatives.
Yep.
Because if you think about this, in your state like Nebraska, it's very red.
Right.
And I served in the state legislature. We fought tooth and nail blue progressive policies. A state like Nebraska, if you spend $1.5 million or $2 million, which might be a rounding error in a California ballot initiative, you can change the law in the state in significant ways. And so in 2024, as an example, John, there were 5 different ballot petitions that we saw foreign money flow indirectly through these intermediaries.
In 1 year?
In 1 year, one cycle. That includes everything from a very, very, very far left pro-abortion initiative to an anti-choice initiative to a pro-marijuana initiative to a raise the minimum wage initiative. And so we've kind of seen the whole gamut on the left primarily focused on ballot petitions. But I got to tell you what, if we've learned anything, if they are willing to break the rules now and they have the resources, they will go as far as we are willing to let them go. Absolutely. So redistricting or other things that we should assume would be on the table.
Yeah. Of course. Before we let you go, I want to touch on something else that you are doing there in Nebraska. And I think that this is pertinent because so many people have home security cameras. They're monitoring their homes in some way. We obviously don't want that information or that footage going to a foreign country, but you found a company that is sending it straight to China.
Yeah, we don't want it to go to anyone, really, let alone a foreign country, let alone our number one geopolitical adversary. Absolutely right. And this is actually a trend, Amanda, in the consumer services and product space generally. You have companies with significant ties to the Chinese Communist Party or the Chinese military, or even if they don't, by the way, Chinese law requires them to give their information to them anyway. And they will go to American consumers and say, our product is safe, it's secure, don't worry about it, we're not going to take your data, when they know it is not true. And in this case, the home surveillance camera one that you mentioned, the back-end firmware is on the FCC no-fly zone because of the known security flaws, the ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and the fact that they know that they can get audio and video of some of your most intimate moments in your family's home, and it goes straight to our number one adversary in the world. So it's a significant issue, and all we're saying is, tell the truth. President Trump's going to handle China, but we can handle consumer protection issues in Nebraska. And if you're going to sell products in Nebraska, tell the truth. And if you're going to give our sensitive information to our foreign adversaries, probably not a big market for that, but you should just tell people that's what you're doing, and that's not what they're doing.
Absolutely. So until this plays out, should people just assume that CCP eyeballs are in their home? Just play it safe?
Anything with the Chinese tie. I'll tell you the ones we've sued so far. We've sued Lorax, which is the camera company you mentioned. We've also sued Temu, which is a service, not a product. And in that case, very similar. It says it's only going to take 1 or 2 small, innocuous pieces of your information. But in fact, it can get access to your entire contents of your cell phone, which is very scary.
Or the camera and the microphone.
That's exactly right. And we've also actually sued TikTok, which has a whole big history. One of which, though, is it tells families that it's safe for their kids, when in fact we know that it's not. And so those are some of the products. Anything with a Chinese tie, I would just encourage people to do their diligence and be wary. Absolutely. Google, has Nebraska's AG sued them? That's a good starting place. Because if they're doing it and we know about it, we will.
Yeah. Mike Hilgers, Attorney General in Nebraska. You're doing a great job there. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Thanks, John.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, we're going to take a very quick break, but we'll be right back on the other side with Dr. Peter McCullough.
Hey, folks, did you know that by the time the average person hits 60 years old, they've lost and regained several hundred pounds? Doctors call it weight cycling, and half of Americans do it. If you do it enough, you are at risk of diabetes, liver damage, heart attack, even a stroke. Bottom line, most people need help to stop weight cycling, and I have a great way for you to do it. Non-prescription Lean was created by doctors. Lean is an oral supplement, and the science is impressive. Its studied ingredients also target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar, it helps control appetite and cravings, and it helps burn fat by converting it to energy, and burning fat helps keep the weight off. If you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace and keep it off, add Lean to your diet and exercise lifestyle. Get 20% off when you enter the code JUSTNEWS at takelean.com. That's code JUSTNEWS at takelean.com.